This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by State Farm Insurance.
Well, here's a statistic that honestly is just hard to take in. According to the National Fire Protection Association, in 2013, almost as many people died in house fires in America as died in the 9/11 attacks.
And if that's not bad enough, the damage these fires leave behind cost billions. You already know what can cause a fire: unattended cooking, candles, cigarettes. But there are other causes that you may have never considered.
Here are a few ways to avoid becoming a costly and possibly fatal statistic.
This is what a ruthless house fire leaves behind. Many times they start in the kitchen. In this picture, the stove was about the only thing that's recognizable.
Rarely does it stop at the kitchen. It immediately can spread.
This is why Elizabeth Monforti does home fire safety checks for free.
It's not something I've given a lot of thought to, I have to confess.
But Whit did have a fire extinguisher in the kitchen.
So it's one extinguisher per person, and once you use it completely, because you can't use it again. And if that does not put the fire out, then you need to evacuate.
Another kitchen warning: grocery bags and stoves don't mix, and don't store things in the oven. If there's a fire on the stove, take the lid and
kind of slide it real slow like this.
Okay.
And then it depletes the oxygen so that the fire goes out right away.
Monforti also spots a hazard lurking behind Wendy's dryer, a hole in the coil that looks clogged.
And with the lint, that can start a fire pretty easily. So it would be a good idea to replace the coil.
Another trouble spot: there's no clear path to the electrical panel.
Keep your storage away from that so that in an emergency you can quickly get to that electrical breaker and turn the power off. And also for our firefighters, that we can get to it quickly and turn off the power.
Other potentially deadly dangers: outdated smoke alarms, storage near the water heater, and upstairs bedrooms without escape plans.
Being on the second floor could create a problem. They make an escape ladder, and you can actually keep the escape ladder under your child's bed.
And it's worth going through this checklist every year.
And if you only have one fire extinguisher, store it in the kitchen. And fire officials say it's important to make sure you know how to use it before you have to.
Lisa, that's great advice. But there is another fire danger, one that we can't predict, that being lightning. The NFPA reports that from 2007 to 2011, fire departments across the country responded to nearly 23,000 fires each year that were started by lightning. These fires caused 9 deaths, more than 50 injuries, and more than $400 million in property damage. That's why we always have to be on alert when there's bad weather.
And it's not just lightning. Any type of bad weather can cause death and destruction. For instance, Sean, do you know how many people have died during this hurricane season so far?
I'm going to take a guess and hope it's a lot less. 25.
Actually, it's a lot more. 51 people. 51.
Oh, that's a lot. So let me test you. Do you know how many storms there have been this year?
Not many. I would probably guess around 3.
Actually, there has been 7. So
Wow.
let's break it down into types of storms. We've had 7 depressions. 5 of those turned into tropical storms, and 2 went on to become hurricanes, Danny and Fred. Hurricane Danny, which you can see here from the International Space Station, was considered a major hurricane because it reached Category 3 with peak winds at 115 miles per hour. And during those 7 storms, Lisa, take a guess at how much damage was caused.
Imagine a lot. Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Exactly. Nearly $374 million in damage. That's a lot.
It sure is. And that's just hurricanes. Wildfires across the country are also wreaking havoc. One published report estimates there are currently 60 large fires burning right now. There's a California drought, too. It's believed the drought has resulted in $900 million loss in crops and is costing the state nearly $3 billion. So you just never know when something like that could hit us.
Yeah, so the only thing you can do now is prepare, and joining us today to help us do that is State Farm Insurance Agent Karen Davis of Salisbury. Karen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So Delmarva has had its fair share of floods, and it's not just from hurricanes. It can be a heavy downfall of rain. So it's important for homeowners to remember that flood insurance isn't included on a typical insurance policy.
That's correct. Flood insurance is normally offered through the National Flood Insurance Program, and it is a separate policy from your homeowner's policy that you have. And most people don't have flood insurance unless they are mandated through having a mortgage or a bank requires it. So you want to be conscious of that and know your surroundings and water patterns to be sure of whether or not that's something that you need, or even if you don't have to have it, is it something that you want to have for extra protection?
Always nice to ask your insurance agent. Okay, so many times when a storm hits, our power goes out. Now, some policies actually cover damage when that happens?
They do. Power surges and spoiled food, things that are lost in refrigerator and freezers may be covered. Again, you want to check with your current agent policy to be sure as to what type of coverage you actually do have.
So there are some steps we can take to help. It's like creating a home inventory.
Yes. And I have found most people don't want to write those things down. So as we say, pictures are worth 1,000 words. Take photos inside your house, go from room to room. Keep track of receipts and serial numbers and those kinds of things. Keep it in a safe place. So if your house is not there tomorrow, you have access to that. So you can know what was hanging on the walls and what was stuck in the closets and the drawers and those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's always nice to have that inventory. Okay, so I guess protection is prevention,
yes.
right? So how can we protect our home?
Well, several different things. One, if we know a storm's coming, make sure your gutters are cleaned out and downspouts are clear so that water can get pushed away from the house. Also want to be sure if you need to board up windows or tape windows, those kinds of things. Biggest hazard that we find are flying objects. Clean up your yard, have things secure, put grills away, and patio furniture and those types of things.
So we always hear that you should have an emergency kit, but
yes.
There are a lot of people that just think this is not going to happen to me. What do you say to those people?
I think that things happen. We're reading today's news today about what's happening, but tomorrow we could be in that news. So we want to be prepared. That's the biggest step that you can take, is having a plan and preparation for the unexpected.
So putting together a kit, what should we have in it?
Water is a big issue. If we don't have water, an emergency kit such as like first aid, making sure you have extra medications, portable radio and flashlights. Today with cell phones, having those extra chargers charged and ready to go in case we are without power for a period of time. And of course, generators, having access to power that way is important.
Well, what about an evacuation plan? That's got to be important as well.
Absolutely. I know our kids come home and teach us about fire evacuation, and they learn that type of stuff. But having a plan of what you're going to do if your family gets separated, where you may want to meet, having those things discussed beforehand can definitely save a lot of panic and headaches on the back end of this happening.
And it's not just our children, it's our furry children as well, our pets.
Yes. And a lot of places won't allow you to bring pets with you, so you definitely need to have a plan for what you're going to do with them. And having a buddy system, having a neighbor or someone maybe that's out of the area where you could take the pets to, or knowing that the facility you're going to is going to allow them.
And pets actually might have a leg up on us when it comes to detecting that bad weather.
Yes. They have that sense about them. So if you see them acting a little strangely, the one thing, they'll run away, they'll go and hide. So, bring them in the house, keep them close to you, so that if bad weather does happen and you need to get out, you know where they are as well.
Real quickly, Karen, what is the biggest mistake you see homeowners making?
Really not knowing what their policy covers and not understanding what they actually have. Being aware of the types of coverages that your policy provides for you, and then also knowing your deductibles.
Right.
Deductibles in our area, because we are in a hurricane-prone area, you may have a separate deductible for hurricane damage. So knowing and understanding what that is before a claim happens, and so that way if you want to make different choices or you have the ability to do that, you can take care of that.
Knowledge is key.
Absolutely.
Karen Davis, thank you so much. Good information, better to be prepared now than later. And if you would like to read more from State Farm Insurance about storm preparation, or if you'd like a home inventory checklist, go to WBOC.com and click on our picture at the top of the page. One tool researchers are saying could be used to help predict severe weather: Slinkies. You heard me right. Slinkies. Coming up next, hear why one instructor says this childhood favorite could help in detecting earthquakes.
And our very own WBOC Chief Meteorologist, Dan Satterfield, has been known to predict the weather a time or two. We also sit down with him to find out where we are and when the big one is coming. Delmarva Life will be right back.